In the dim twilight of the royal past, there lies a story that has never truly settled. The story of a princess with dreamy eyes stepping into the palace, only to be buried beneath the icy layers of betrayal and power games. Princess Diana, the young girl with a sweet smile and a heart full of hope, was once adored by Britain as a modern-day Cinderella. When she became the wife of Prince Charles, people believed that a real-life fairy tale was unfolding. But behind the media smiles, behind the lavish gowns and the balcony waves, lay a silent and bitter tragedy, where a third person named Camilla Parker Bowles had always lingered like an unshakable shadow. Diana once fought in silence. She fought not only for love, but for her own existence within a cold and harsh institution. That marriage, seemingly built of gold and glory, turned out to be a suffocating prison, where every wall was constructed with lies. Camilla, the woman Charles had never stopped loving, who had never truly left his heart, was Diana's greatest torment. And in that undeclared war, on one side, the people's princess, on the other, the prince's longtime lover, who was the true victor? Nearly 3 decades after Princess Diana's suspicious death, it seemed that all wounds had rested and all memories tucked away in the archives of history. But then, an explosive piece of news erupted like a bomb at the heart of the royal family. Queen Camilla was caught red-handed burning the last remaining letters of Diana, handwritten lines, private thoughts the princess had once entrusted like a final testament. According to a close source at Clarence House, the act took place in a discreet room where Camilla believed no one would know. But security cameras and an insider staff member recorded every moment she threw each letter into the crackling flames. Immediately, the media and public were shaken. Why would Camilla do that? Could those letters have contained something she couldn't let the world see? One cannot help but ask, was this simply a personal act by a woman trying to erase the remnants of the past? Or was it a calculated political move to protect Camilla's precarious position and influence within the public eye and the royal inner circle? For if those letters indeed held evidence, or truths never before revealed, about Charles, about the broken marriage, or even a secret capable of reshaping the fate of the crown, then Camilla's act of destruction might not just stem from fear of exposure, but be part of a deliberate scheme to extinguish the final spark of an icon. This story immediately reignited all the unhealed memories the public held of Diana. Millions of Britons and international admirers still reserve a unique and irreplaceable place in their hearts for her. Diana's passing was never seen as a full stop, but a lingering question mark spanning decades. And now, with Camilla's suspicious actions, that question mark once again burst into flames of doubt. Observers believe this incident could shake the very image of the royal family that King Charles III has worked to rebuild. Because this is not merely the burning of letters, it is the intentional erasure of a part of history, an attempt to control the emotional and symbolic legacy of Diana, the woman Britain has never stopped mourning. So in the end, did Camilla burn the letters to avoid comparison? To permanently bury a departed rival? Or is she trying to conceal a truth powerful enough to blow away the crown she now wears? Clarence House has not issued any statement, and Buckingham Palace remains in absolute silence, a silence that only fuels further suspicion. Were those letters merely private reflections, or were they the final puzzle piece in a grand scheme scripted decades ago? What do you think? Did Camilla act out of personal reasons, or was it a political maneuver? Leave your comment below. Type 1 if you believe it was personal motivation, or 0 if you suspect it was a political calculation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you the untold stories behind the doors of the British royal family. This story isn't over yet. Stay tuned to uncover what's still being hidden. It was precisely in the moment when the public seemed to be forgetting Princess Diana's sorrowful eyes that the appearance of an old wooden box, hidden deep within a storage cellar at Althorp, brought everything back to life. Inside were not just handwritten letters sealed with red wax, but the soul of a woman once drowned beneath fame and betrayal. It was a voice that could not be silenced. These were the handwritten words of Diana, Princess of Wales, penned intermittently from the early 1990s to 1997, as if she knew that one day, the truth would be needed. These letters were not ornate, not dazzling, but every line bled. Diana did not write for the public, nor did she write to wage war. She wrote as a mother desperately trying to protect her two young sons from the royal storm. She wrote as a woman who had once loved deeply, only to be stabbed in the back by her husband and the woman who had once been called a friend. Charles and Camilla not only betrayed love, but stole her last ounce of faith in marriage, in family, and in what was supposed to be royal honor. In a letter dated November 3, 1992, Diana trembled as she wrote, "They call me paranoid, but every night my sleep is broken by their laughter outside my door. I don't know who I can trust. This palace is colder than any winter I've ever known." The words are short, but the pain is endless. She spoke of fears of isolation, of being stripped of custody, of being smeared as mentally unstable. Throughout all her years living in Kensington Palace, the only thing that kept her from collapsing was her two boys, William and Harry. And then, in another letter without a date, but believed to have been written around 1995, the time of the explosive BBC interview, Diana mentioned Camilla not with hatred, but with bitter sorrow. "Camilla knew everything. She knew I was pregnant with William when they met at Ludlow. She knew Charles promised there would be no more contact. But still she came, still sent letters, still called, as if I were the intruder." Those lines showed that Diana was never blind. She saw it all, understood it all. Yet she chose silence, because she didn't want her children to grow up in hatred. Some other letters revealed something even more unsettling: direct warnings about Camilla's interference in her children's upbringing. Diana wrote, "I do not accept Camilla attending my children's lunches, smiling as though she's a substitute mother. She is not their mother, and she never will be." This wasn't just a warning to Camilla. It was the final resistance of a mother being pushed beyond the borders of her own family. But perhaps what makes these letters so haunting is not their accusations, but the calm sorrow embedded in every stroke of the pen. Diana did not write with resentment. She did not curse Charles or Camilla. She simply wrote to affirm that she had existed, that she had loved, had forgiven, had endured, and was fading away day by day, like a shadow. In one final letter, believed to be written in July 1997, just weeks before the fateful accident in Paris, Diana quietly recorded, "If anything happens to me, remember that I said it first. I feel myself being slowly erased. But I leave these lines not for pity, but so people know who I was." Those words now echo like a prophecy. If these letters are made public, could they change how people view Camilla, the woman who went from the other woman to queen? Could anyone still call Camilla the fated love of Charles after reading the tear-soaked lines of Diana? And would people still admire Camilla's resilience, knowing that all the while, Diana had to grit her teeth in silence just to spare her children the pain? Because behind those letters lies not just a fragment of memory, but a fragment of history. A history that was never written in truth, but redrawn by the hands of power and the media. Diana knew this. She once wrote, "One day they'll tell my story without me in it, but I write this so that when they forget, the truth still remains." Rumor has it that alongside these letters, Diana also left behind never-before-released audio recordings, tapes speaking of her true feelings, her fears for her own safety, even a list of those within the palace she didn't trust. If those tapes ever come to light, the letters will no longer just be personal reflections. They'll become living evidence of a silent battle between truth and power, between a woman pushed to the margins and an empire trying to conceal its stain. And though Diana chose not to publish the letters while she was alive, perhaps to preserve Charles's dignity, to protect William and Harry's childhood, then, it is that very decision that gives her words more nobility than any public speech ever could, because she did not use them as weapons. She used them as a final shield to protect her fragile self, a quiet yet defiant way to say, I am not a victim, I am a witness, and I am still here through these pages. Those letters do not need to be massively publicized. Just a small portion revealed that would be enough to change the entire picture that once seemed complete about Diana, Camilla, and Charles. And enough for us, the outsiders, to once again ask, does justice exist in the royal family? Or is it merely a pretty name for a game where the loser is always the one without a voice? Because Diana did speak out, albeit belatedly, albeit only through ink and paper. But that voice cannot be silenced. At that very moment, no one could have imagined that the fleeting peace at Clarence House was about to be shattered by a scene no one in the royal family had ever dared to picture. One night in mid-month, the wind rustled through the thick glass windows, whispering like echoes of old secrets never told. And in the small west room of the residence, usually used only for reading or private meetings, the fire in the hearth suddenly blazed fiercer than usual. The acrid smell of smoke, unlike that of normal dry wood, crept through each marble hallway, a smell of something, synthetic, half-burnt, harsh and suffocating. It was there that a young royal assistant, recently transferred from Sandringham just a few months prior, accidentally witnessed something no one could have anticipated. While walking down the hallway to deliver the daily report, he paused due to the smoke and an inexplicable sense of unease. The door to the room was slightly ajar, and then, in just a split second, his eyes caught a shocking sight. Queen Camilla, in a dark velvet robe, kneeling by the fireplace, her hands trembling as she threw in shredded pieces of paper. One of those pieces, just before the flames consumed it, revealed soft, distinctive handwriting, Diana's handwriting. It wasn't printed, nor was it the usual typed correspondence seen in royal protocol. They were handwritten lines, the faded purple ink blurred by time. And in that fleeting moment, he recognized a familiar word, William. The assistant stood frozen. Not because of Camilla's presence, but because he was fully aware that what was being destroyed were remnants of the past, the scattered pieces left behind by a woman ruthlessly pushed out of royal life. The shock deepened when Camilla suddenly turned around, her eyes filled with a fear she could not hide. It's not what it looks like, she stammered, breath quickening, both hands raised as if to shield herself. But the smell of ashes, smoke, and burning blue silk had said it all. The room was thick with a terrifying silence. Strangely, less than 48 hours later, that young assistant was urgently transferred to Balmoral, where he would be assigned to an area entirely unrelated to his previous work. No announcement, no clear reason, no explanation. Everything happened quietly but suspiciously precise. Someone inside the royal circle even whispered that his phone had been confiscated immediately afterward for information security screening. We are made at Clarence House. Camilla's closest aides refused to comment when asked. However, the longtime gardener, well acquainted with the scents of flowers on the estate, also confirmed that on that night, the smoke smelled of burning silk and old inked paper, a scent unmistakable. And the question arose, why did Camilla personally have to destroy those letters? Was it a spontaneous, emotional reaction, or part of a plan long prepared? Those who were once close to Princess Diana all knew she had the habit of writing by hand to express her emotions, especially during the breakdown of her marriage with Charles. These letters were not merely personal diaries, but tangible evidence of how Diana once felt betrayed, isolated, and pushed to the brink of deep emotional pain. If those words fell into the wrong hands, they could unravel the carefully curated image of the royal family. And perhaps they held truths that Camilla, or even Charles, wished to keep buried forever. The question that chills many to the bone is, was Camilla acting out of personal fear, or was someone higher up giving the orders? Some believe she is haunted by the past, by Diana's invisible presence lurking in every decision, every step she takes. Every time Camilla enters a room, She knows the public's eyes are still fixed on the ghost of the princess, the woman whom Britain has never forgotten. Thus, destroying Diana's letters wasn't merely about burning paper. It was a desperate effort to erase the past, to halt every retelling, every memory that could threaten her current position in the palace. But that very act revealed a more terrifying truth. Perhaps the past was never forgiven and never truly ended. Is this the first time Camilla has done such a thing? Or are those letters just the tip of an iceberg, a network of evidence, words, mementos, and secrets proving that the story between her, Charles and Diana Baum, is still riddled with unresolved mysteries? The final question, also the most painful one: if Diana were still alive, would she have forgiven Camilla? Or would she quietly watch the woman who was once the other woman destroy every memory, every trace she left behind in this world? It was not merely an offense against memory, but a silent declaration of war against the truth and against the conscience. And it all began on a windless night, in a room where the fire smoldered quietly, and with an assistant who accidentally witnessed what no one was ever meant to see. Just like a hairline crack that finally splits wide open, Camilla's cruel act of secretly burning the last handwritten letter left by Princess Diana could no longer remain in the shadows. As soon as the truth began to leak, the royal family suddenly plunged into a state of unprecedented chaos. The cold corridors of Buckingham Palace echoed with whispered gossip, suspicious glances cast at one another, and most notably, the chilling, calculated silence of King Charles III. And from that moment on, the crisis spread, not only within the royal family, but also igniting the fragile ties that connected them to the Spencer family. Immediately after the media reported that Diana's letter had been destroyed in a mysterious fire, King Charles canceled all public appearances scheduled for the week, citing health issues and private commitments. But that move only poured more fuel on the fire. The public isn't foolish. The press isn't deaf. And the Spencer family, above all, knew exactly what was being concealed behind that curtain of silence. No apology, no explanation. No one from the royal family stepped forward to reassure the public or clarify the suspicions. It was precisely that coldness and secrecy that caused the public backlash to intensify. People asked, why Diana's letter? Why burn it instead of preserving it? And who gave the order? Charles Spencer, the elder brother who once stood beside his sister's coffin in 1997 and delivered a eulogy that moved the world to tears, has now risen once more, this time to demand justice for Diana's memory. He could not hide his anger. In a statement released shortly after the incident came to light, he emphasized that the deliberate destruction of the letter is an act of betrayal against my sister's memory and legacy. He called for an independent investigation, not overseen by the royal family, to determine who made that decision, for what purpose, and why the Spencer family was never informed. At Althorp, Princess Diana's final resting place, the Spencer family launched a full inventory of all documents, memorabilia, and remaining letters. They feared that it wasn't just one letter that had been destroyed. They began to suspect this might be part of a deliberate scheme to erase everything that remained of Diana's soul, things that could expose the darkest sides of Camilla, or even King Charles. But perhaps most shocking of all was the reaction from Diana's two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Neither had been informed in advance about the destruction of their mother's letter. It was only when the media began reporting that they learned one of their most sacred memories had been erased, without consent, without permission. William, often seen as the reserved heir to the throne, remained eerily silent this time. Those close to him described him as a man holding both rage and pain in his chest, saying nothing, but with eyes as cold as steel. He didn't want to further fuel the widening rift between him and his father, but that silence carried with it a deep, profound disappointment. Meanwhile, Harry, now living in California, may no longer be bound by royal protocol. Sources close to him said he was devastated and unimaginably angry. He saw it as an unforgivable betrayal, American media even speculated that Harry was considering speaking out publicly, possibly through a speech or a written piece, to defend his mother's honor and seek justice for the burned letter. The situation grew even more complex when it was revealed that Harry had not been in direct contact with his father during these days. Royal insiders disclosed that King Charles had tried to call Harry but received no response. This signaled that the already fragile relationship between father and son was now on the verge of complete collapse. The question remains, why is King Charles staying silent? What is that silence protecting? And whom? Is he trying to shield Camilla, who is suspected of involvement in the decision to destroy Diana's letter? Or was he himself the one who gave the order? In the midst of a nation reeling with suspicion, the king's silence is no longer a symbol of dignity. It has become a burden, a glaring sign of evasion and fear of the truth. And if Charles is indeed remaining silent to protect Camilla, then that very silence could cost him the most precious thing of all, the love and trust of his sons. Because there is one thing everyone knows very well, Diana was not only a symbol of compassion and feminine strength, but she was also the heart of this family. And anyone who touches her memory is playing with the deepest and most dangerous emotions. The fracture within the royal family is no longer something that can be hidden. It's present in every evasive glance, every ambiguous answer, every name deliberately left unspoken. And above all, it manifests most clearly in the terrifying silence of King Charles, a man standing at the crossroads between fatherhood and loyalty to his current wife. The unanswered question remains, will Charles choose to keep everything hidden to protect Camilla? Or will he face his sons and finally tell the truth? And if he chooses silence, can that silence truly bury the memory of a woman who once moved the entire world to tears? Or will that very silence become the final spark that sets this royal house ablaze from within? And in that moment, as King Charles falls silent before the sorrow-soaked words of his late wife, another question resounds like a warning bell. If this is only part of the whole truth, then where's the rest? Could there be other letters that have never been made public? Never read by anyone in the royal family, except Diana herself and a few she trusted absolutely? During the final years of her life, Princess Diana was said to have become extremely cautious with what she documented. Her handwritten letters, especially those written just before her fateful trip to Paris, were not only confessions but veiled warnings. According to several close friends, Diana once mentioned that she had made copies of important letters and sent them to different locations in case something happened. Among those places, one name came up repeatedly: Switzerland, a peaceful land long known as a secure haven for the wealthy and powerful to store personal assets and secrets. Could those copies still exist? And if so, who holds them now? At the center of the speculation is a figure nearly forgotten: Edith Travers. As the royal archivist for nearly 3 decades, Travers wasn't just a keeper of records, she was a silent witness to countless secrets never revealed. She was the one in charge of maintaining Diana's personal correspondence archive at Kensington Palace. Strangely, just weeks before the Paris crash, Edith Travers suddenly submitted her resignation without giving any specific reason. In a rare, brief interview afterward, she uttered only one chilling sentence: Diana's truth is in danger. And some things, if forgotten, will bring unimaginable consequences to an entire monarchy. Many royal experts believe Edith Travers was not merely a caretaker, but Diana's final gatekeeper. Some sources claim that Travers was the one who helped send copies of Diana's letters out of the UK, including at least one marked top secret, sent to an anonymous address in Geneva, a city known as a safe bank for high-level figures. In that letter, Diana not only expressed fear of a staged accident, but also mentioned the relationship between King Charles, Camilla, and a shadowy political power group manipulating the royal family's public image. What makes the situation even more tangled is that after Diana's death, all efforts to retrieve the remaining letters failed. The Spencer family appeared not to possess any copies. Diana's former aides either remained absolutely silent or disappeared from public view. Meanwhile, Edith Travers also cut off all communication with the media, declined every interview request, and vanished entirely from public life. It is only known that she now resides in a small house in a remote part of northern Scotland, where there is no phone signal and no one can reach her. However, one letter still exists. A letter believed to have been written on the night of August 28th, just 2 days before Diana left London for Paris. In it, she called the trip a journey that might change everything, and mentioned that she would face the Trothviaman, no matter the consequences. What stands out is the final line of the letter, written in tense, italicized ink. If anything happens, find Edith. She knows everything. Just those 6 words are enough to shake the entire royal family to its core. If there truly is a network of Diana's letter copies, then this is not merely the existence of a few emotional handwritten pages. Each line Diana wrote could serve as evidence powerful enough to topple the image the British monarchy has painstakingly built since her death. And at the top of the list of those most threatened is Camilla, the woman once deemed the intruder, now sitting on the Queen's throne, basking in glory and acclaim. A letter, just one, if it holds enough power to break trust, could strip Camilla of her current title. Worse still, if what Diana recorded involves political scheming or a deliberate setup leading to the Paris accident, then not only Camilla but even King Charles would not be beyond suspicion. At that point, the entire moral foundation upon which the monarchy stands would be shaken to its core. These letters, if made public, would not only serve as evidence of a personal tragedy, but also as a historical indictment of a regime that once denied a woman's pain. Princess Diana once said, "I want to be the queen in people's hearts." And perhaps it is these remaining letters that are her final weapon to claim the throne in collective memory. So what would happen if one of those letters were truly found? Who would be the one to release it? And when the curtain is lifted, will Camilla still be able to hold on to her title as queen? All of Britain, even the world, is anxiously awaiting the answer to a question thought long forgotten. Can one surviving letter change the legacy of Camilla and the monarchy forever? As soon as news broke that Princess Diana's final letter, believed to contain secrets and personal last wishes, had been destroyed before reaching Princes William and Harry, the whole of Britain erupted. What began as a closed-door meeting in the palace quickly exploded into an unprecedented wave of public outrage. Hashtags like #JusticeForDiana and How Letters Not Ashes flooded social media platforms, turning into a nationwide campaign, echoing the roar of a generation unwilling to let the truth be buried in. What made the matter even more painful was the symbolic image Diana left behind for the British public and the world over 2 decades after her death. Diana was not just a princess. She was the first woman into the British royal family to raise her personal voice within a cold and rigid institution. She represented compassion, honesty, and a human desire that transcended palace walls. The destruction of the letter, believed by many to contain her final heartfelt message, was seen as a deliberate act to silence Diana once more. Many have voiced their belief that the royal family is trying to erase the voice of the only woman who ever truly shook the institution. Across memorial walls throughout Britain, people began rewriting Diana's famous quotes, "I don't go by a rule book. I lead from the heart, not the head. Hug the hurt." These lines appeared on t-shirts, banners, even tattooed on arms, silent declarations of Diana's everlasting legacy. National television replayed footage of her humanitarian trips, her breathless interviews, and those moments that once again drew tears, not of sorrow, but of rage. Remarkably, this wave extended beyond British borders. On social media across the U.S., Canada, Australia, even in Africa, where Diana once walked among HIV/AIDS patients, young people who never lived in her era still showed reverence. To them, Diana was not just a deceased royal. She was a symbol of courage and humanity, a reflection of what an ideal monarchy should be, not by title, but by heart. And thus, that letter, if it truly exists, is the final witness to that spirit. Amid this rising fury, a pressing question is echoing through televised panels, community meetings, and newspaper editorials. Will this public wave force the royal family to break the curtain of secrecy? Will they have the courage to let the people and the world see the part of the truth Diana left behind? Or once again, will silence be chosen as their weapon? There is no answer yet. But one thing is certain, the public is no longer willing to remain silent. The shocking story of Queen Camilla being caught burning Princess Diana's personal letter has sent global public opinion into turmoil and revived the painful memories tied to the tragedy of the Rose of England. The act, seen as destructive, not only shattered the fragile trust the public held toward the royal family, but also raised a haunting question. What was in that letter that terrified Camilla so much she wanted it gone forever? The incident swiftly became the focal point of international media, throwing the image of the British royal family, already struggling to regain public support during this transitional era, into a spiraling crisis. Yet amid the wave of outrage, once again, the powerful legacy of Princess Diana emerged. Despite the palace's silence, the public and the Spencer family continue to speak up. Like a fortress defending what remains of Diana against attempts to erase history, Camilla may have burned a letter, but she cannot burn memories. She cannot extinguish the voice that once moved the entire world. Diana, through truth, pain, and courage in the face of power, left behind a legacy that no fire can destroy. And in this moment of chaos, all eyes turn toward her two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Which of them will stand up to defend their mother's honor? Will William, the heir to the throne, dare confront the shadowy forces trying to erase Diana from royal memory? Or will it be Harry, who has left the royal family to once again break the silence, as he has done before? Leave a comment with the number 1 if you believe William will speak out. Type 0 if your hope lies with Harry. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any updates on the mystery of the burned letter and the quest for justice for Princess Diana. And finally, remember this. From the ashes of letters, Diana's flame of truth still burns. Her story does not end in Camilla's fireplace. It lives on in the hearts of the people.